we got to take this guy down like right now. Get him down right now. And I had dispatch call the fire rescue to get them rolling. And as I said that, this guy, remember? This guy launches from a squat position, flies through the air.
You are now listening to On the Beat Podcast.
Here we go with episode number 12 of On the Beat Podcast. How you doing today, Lou?
Doing great.
Good. It's Friday.
Thank God.
Yeah, I know. And after, 2.5 weeks of nothing but freaking rain, the sun is out today. So hopefully it'll stay that way, and we'll dry out.
Some of us, some of our properties need to dry out a little bit more than
Yeah,
others.
yours more than mine.
Thanks to that flood in my dining room.
Perfect. All right, today is a kind of a special day. We have a guest on that you and I have both worked with at one point in our career, and he's got a very colorful career himself, going back to before. Well, he was a cop, he was military, he was a fighter on the amateur level, on the professional level, and I had to laugh because he says he was the oldest, and he's got two brothers that are twins. And when he started learning Taekwondo, his two brothers were his heavy bags.
Yep.
I thought that was pretty funny.
I read that.
Yeah. So without any further ado, I want to just a little bit more discussion on him. Actually, I don't want to jump the gun too fast here. Big George Randolph. When I first made contact with Big George Randolph, I was a background investigator. And
Okay.
During the hiring process at West Palm Beach Police, and we, I was tasked with doing backgrounds as part of the hiring process. So I had all these files on my desk, and I open up, and I'm reading George Randolph. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy's like Captain America. And it's like, I got to check this guy out.
It's got to be fluff.
Yeah, who would write this on an application for a job and not be able to back it up, right?
Correct.
So I'm reading it, and it says North American K1 Kickboxing Champion. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. I'm into the martial arts, so I'm like, North American. I'm thinking all these people, these names that I know, these guys are coming. So I Google. So it can't be. I look him up. There he is. Bing. Big George Randolph with the belt. I'm like, wow. Okay. Now he's got me, right? He's got my attention now. And then I'm reading further, and it's like, said something about Army, Special Forces training. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Right? So now I gotta look into this even more, right? So I make a phone call. It's the funniest thing. I tell this story all the time. I make this phone call up to, I think it was Fort Bragg, and I try to make contact with somebody. I think George had put somebody's name down. This guy was a sergeant. So the phone rings, and I ask for Sergeant Wood, whatever his guy's last name was, and it was so stereotypical. I get, yeah, this is Sergeant, right? And he's got that voice, I said, hey, Sarge, this is Sergeant Riddle from West Palm Police. Hey, Sarge, what can I do for you? Right? And I'm trying not to laugh, and I'm like, oh, my God, So I said, I'm doing a background investigation. I'm a law enforcement officer down in South Florida. I'm doing a background investigation on a gentleman by the name of George Randolph. Well, I opened up the floodgates on this guy, right? George Randolph, Jesus Christ. He says, George Randolph and I, you want to end this war right now? I'll go back to Iraq. I'll take Big George, and we'll both end this thing right now. Right? And I'm thinking, okay, all right, So I did a little further into the questioning of this guy, and he's like, Sarge, you got no problems with Big George. He'll take care of business. He'll do you right. I said, okay, Sarge, appreciate it. Thank you.
Enough said.
Hung up, enough said, right? So did a few other calls, and none of them could top that sergeant from Fort Bragg. I wish I could remember his name because he was the greatest. So lo and behold, I wind up giving Big George Randolph the thumbs up, and he came down. I don't even know where he was at that time, but he came down for his interviews, and I met him face to face. I'm 5'8", and I had to look up at him,
I think we all do.
And it was very impressive guy, physically and with everything else that he
Personality.
his personality, everything that he brought forward. So George, he's got a pretty good background. Born in West Virginia, country boy, right? So he started out with his dad, learning to hunt, do his thing, growing up there in that atmosphere, completely different than where I grew up and where you grew up, right?
Yep.
And then got into the martial arts, got into Taekwondo like most martial artists do at the young age, right? Taekwondo is the thing that our parents put us in or we choose to do. And then he started working his way up, right? Working his way up the ladder. Went to college, got into some fights, sanctioned fights, not ballroom fights. Oh, probably some ballroom fights in there too, but we'll have him talk about that. But he's got his total fight career, his kickboxing career, 18-10. His mixed martial arts career was 6-4. His boxing is a 3-3 record. His total professional record was 24-7, right? And his total amateur record was 9-0.
Impressed.
Yeah, and then I had a chance, as years went by, I had a chance to train with George, and the guy knows his shit. I mean, he knows his shit, and he's a hell of an instructor. And when he tells you, don't hit me that hard, otherwise I'm going to knock you out, he means it. All right? He didn't do it to me, but I've seen him do it. All right? And he'll give you a few fair warnings when you're in there sparring, but if you're going too hard, he'll let you know. Okay, so without further ado, I want to welcome Big George Randolph. George, welcome.
Welcome, buddy.
Happy to be here. I'm excited. Like I said, it's good to see both of you. I wish I could have gone down there in person, but it's at least good to make contact. So,
well, if you got down here in person, we would probably be having a hard time doing this right now.
Yeah. I'd probably be more relaxed. I said I
be
was
a little
nervous,
foggy.
so
Yeah,
a little calmer. So, but happy to be here.
So George, just like most of our other podcasts, just to break the ice, because I know a lot of people are nervous when they come on. What we would like to know is from you, with this background you have, you're now back in law enforcement. You retired from the fight world. You're back into law enforcement, and you also own a CrossFit box up in St. Cloud, Kissimmee, St. Cloud area in Central Florida. So what does Big George Randolph do when the alarm clock goes off in the morning? What's the first thing you do?
Well, I'm civilized now, as my wife Marilyn says. I get up. Actually, it's still a little bit disciplined. I get up at 5:30 in the morning and I go for a run, and then I come home and shower and wake my kids up. I have a beautiful 9-year-old daughter and a handsome 8-year-old son. And I get them ready for school. And I've been blessed enough I'm a school resource officer at their school. So I get them ready. We drive to school together. I give daddy a kiss. They go off to class. And then I just kind of do my SRO thing, which is not a whole lot, but, I try to stay involved. I love the job. I love being around the kids. I've kind of not exactly a people person, I guess, but kids I really believe that it's cheesy and cliche that they're the future, that they are. And so I like to give a positive impression, even with the ones that, I can tell are headed down the wrong way. Luckily, I'm in an elementary school, so I think there's time to save them. So I kind of we do, we have a program here called Bookmark Buddies where you help kids with, where you're partnered with a kid who needs to learn to having trouble with reading. There's obviously the Shop with a Cop program. I think West Palm does something like that as well. I remember hearing about that a long time ago. So I try to get involved in all those programs. Luckily, St. Cloud is a pretty small town, so we still kind of have that small town mentality. And a lot of the kids are it doesn't matter small town or not, you still have a lot of broken families and things like that. So I try to stay involved with them as far as that goes. Now that my crazier days of law enforcement are over or are past me, I try to work on more of the other on the positive side of it. So
Okay, cool. So, Spencer, West Virginia, born and raised there. Can you tell us about that? What was your childhood like?
Pretty. I wish I had a cool, painful story of how I was, grew up and had to get a job at 9 years old and support my family or whatever. But I had a pretty amazing childhood. I had a mom and a dad who both loved me a whole lot. And, Dad was pretty stern, old school Navy guy, Vietnam vet. But still was always around. Like you said earlier, we'd go hunting together, fishing, things like that. I'm a sensitive guy, I guess, is what it comes down to. So I was kind of a crybaby growing up. They call it sensitive when you become an adult, but when you're a kid, they call it a crybaby. So really the only, I was kind of overweight as well, so I got picked on a little bit for that, and nothing like traumatic, but I think it formed a lot of who I am today, because definitely grew an affinity for fighting. I think at some point I made a decision that I wasn't gonna just sit and cry about it anymore. I was gonna do something, and I kind of took it from there, and I liked it. I think I always tell the Tony the Tiger story is what I tell. When I was in 4th grade, I think a classmate of mine who is actually, believe it or not, I looked him up, is in jail right now for murder, but he put a Tony the Tiger sticker on my butt at lunchtime and told all the kids, and all the kids were laughing and whatever. Well, I started crying, and he was making fun of me, and I don't remember exact details, but I just know I hauled off and I smacked him in the nose and bloodied his nose, knocked him down, jumped on him, kind of I call it a Christmas Story beating. Like, you ever seen that movie, The Christmas Story, where he's sitting on top of the bully and pounding him and just crying and bawling? I think that's exactly what I was doing. So, but that was a very formative moment, I think I remember, where I finally stood up for myself, and honestly kind of liked it.
And that's when your fight career started.
What's that?
And that's when your fight career started.
Yeah, pretty much. That little sick, disturbed part of our brain there, that I was like, wow, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Pushed him in the nose, and he fell down, and he stopped doing what he was doing. So I think that was definitely a formative moment. So from a Tony the Tiger sticker placed on my butt, I think world champion fighter was born. So.
There you go. So college, what, you got a full ride on football?
Yep, football was my real big. I did Taekwondo in high school, but football was my real big focus. I enjoyed the working out part, the lifting weights, the camaraderie of the football team, all that stuff. So that was real big. And I got offered a full ride from a little Division II school in West Virginia called Glenville State, and obviously took it. I had a couple other offers for bigger schools, but it wasn't anything, full ride. It was a lot less money. So it was either take the chance and go to a bigger school, or maybe getting, a bigger scholarship down the road, or just take the ride and go. Bachelor's was a bachelor's, and honestly, at that point, all I cared about was playing football. I didn't really care about the education part, since I knew already I wanted to be a police officer. And even back then, I think now most places require a bachelor degree, but back when I was looking, a lot of law enforcement places didn't require a bachelor's. So I just went to play football, and if I got a degree along the way, awesome. But yeah, school in West Virginia where I was born, so back up in the hills, really in the hills. This college is kind of drive through 30 miles of woods and deer and squirrels, and you come up on a college and on top of a mountain. So, but played offensive line. Well, they recruited me as a tackle and a tight end because I could actually run a little bit back in the day. I ran a sub 540, and so they said, hey, let's try this guy at tight end. And story about that, I remember running Rich Rodriguez was our coach then. He eventually went to Michigan and coached and Arizona State. I don't know if he's still the coach there now, but I remember him. I run pattern across the back of the end zone. The quarterback threw the ball, and quarterbacks throw the ball a lot harder in college than they do in high school. It went right through my hands and bounced off my face mask. And I remember he yelled, "Someone get Randolph a sandwich. We're going to make that boy a tackle." So that was the end of my glory career in football. So I went on to play left tackle, offensive line, and loved it. Great time, great memories, And where I met the guy who got me into fighting was through the football team. One of our linebackers was a boxer.
Yeah, tell us about that, how that started, because that's really what got you going, isn't it, into doing what you've done?
We were all talking one day, and this guy was getting ready for a tough man competition. I don't even know if they still do tough man, but the 3 1-minute rounds, headgear, big 16-ounce gloves. And in West Virginia, it's the guys come straight off the bar stool right to the ring. So, but he was getting ready for this. He was a linebacker. He was getting ready for a competition, and we were talking about it. And I said, "Oh yeah, I did some taekwondo. I can fight." So he said, "Hey, well, come on up, and well, I need a sparring partner." So I went up there, and he proceeded to splatter my face all over the wall. I remember, taekwondo is much different than boxing. It's a totally different game, and but I enjoyed it and kind of had a little bit of skill, and trained with him for a little bit, and then about 3-4 weeks in, they talked me into signing up for my own tough man competition. And I was a big guy. I was probably I wasn't quite, because that was early. So I was probably just about 300 pounds. So, and I signed up and actually ended up winning the first thing ever. So, fight once Friday night and 3 times Saturday night. And man, it was, even though it's redneck and half the opponents in the locker room smelled like beer, it didn't matter. I felt like I was a gladiator. Like I felt like I was listening to the crowd cheer and all that stuff.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Simpatico Real Estate, Palm Beach-based family company with interest in Lake Worth to Port St. Lucie, specializing in commercial real estate and management firms. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Simpatico Real Estate, Inc. Now let's get back to the show.
I remember walking up to the locker room, and I got my bag and my beanie pulled down over my head, feeling like Rocky. And there's guys with their hands wrapped standing outside the locker room smoking cigarettes. And so it was so not exactly a professional fight, but still, that was undoubtedly what got me hooked, because I knew I liked to scrap a little bit, and but that was definitely what sold it, hearing the cheers and the blood and all that crazy stuff. So
that's cool. And that was like the gateway, right? That was like the gateway into what you did.
I kind of knew I liked, the contact and the fighting and this and that, but the gladiator feeling, the arena, hearing the people cheer, and you once again, maybe that little sick part of your brain, like you punch someone in the mouth and people cheer for it. So it sold me. I was all about it. So that was definitely the birthplace there.
There you go.
John, I'm curious to see, did you have a nickname or anything when you were fighting? What was the nickname?
I've always been Big George. That was it.
Big
I
George.
think after George Foreman, I think I was kind of stuck there. It just never had anything. There's some cool nicknames out there like Razor or all those, the Jungle Cat and stuff. But I was just always big. It was
Big
just
G.
it, so.
There you go. Very cool. So your fight career is going on. Started in college. What happens after college?
Well, I kind of fought off and on in college because, like I mentioned in the thing, I was a scholarship athlete, so my coaches were really not too keen on me getting in the ring or the cage or whatever and fighting. And this was 1997, 1998, where they were still fighting in like bars and what it wasn't like shoot. A lot of the UFC was done on Indian reservations because it was illegal in so many places. Like it wasn't really taking off. Because after I fought the initial tough man competition, probably about 6 months to a year later, I did a sport jiu-jitsu match is what they called it, but it was really an MMA fight, and I won that, and that was kind of the birth of my MMA career there. But so I fought a couple times here and there, off and on. But once football ended, I graduated in 4 years. I stayed in that town to kind of, I just fought there, and that's when it really took off. That's when I dropped about, I don't know, probably 60 pounds, and I was just fighting anyone, anytime, any place was our gym's mantra. Like, and so we would take fights. Hey, what do you do? It's Tuesday. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Nothing. You want to come fight in, I don't know, Nebraska? We're like, yeah, sure. Are you in shape? Not really, but I'll give it hell for one round. So, but because we just like to fight, we like the trip, we like all of it. So, and we had other fights that we prepared, obviously ones good fights that we prepared for. But like we said, back in the day, paydays were, 500 to show and 500 to win, stuff like that. So it's like you had to fight all the time because that's the only job I had. That's all I was doing was fighting. So I did that for a little while, and then I got offered a job in Oklahoma by a gentleman, Dale Cook, which is the old Hoist Gracie documentary Choke. He was one of the coaches in that. He had a fighter in Todd Hayes, but he invited me to come out, run one of his martial arts schools, and fight for him. So I did that for a few years and ran the school. Really enjoyed teaching and really enjoyed teaching the kids. That's where I kind of picked up on that and fought for him. He had his own fight organization and did a bunch of kickboxing matches, a few MMA fights, fought in K1 once or twice when I was with him, and really learned the shady side of the fight game when I was with him, seeing how a lot of fights are, that fixed fights or supposed to do this, because they tell me, hey, this guy you're fighting, we need you to carry him until the third round, or, and realizing that at some points I was that guy who was getting carried until the third round. It felt good about making it so many rounds with this guy, and then realized that they were carrying me with it. It was, so I kind of started to see a little bit of it there in the fight game, getting kind of disillusioned with it, that, because I just like to fight. I didn't care about wins, losses, whatever. It just was about getting in there and throwing leather. But kind of saw that it's a business first and foremost for a lot of people, that it's not about the fight. It's not about the honor. We're not samurais. We're not whatever. That a lot of it is just about, about money, which I understand, that's the world today. So anyway, so I fought with him for a while. Well, I was still young, 24, 25, whatever. And I wanted to do more of the mixed martial arts thing. So kind of had a falling out with him, and I left. I ended up moving to California, just kind of packed up, sold whatever I couldn't fit in my Jeep. I had a Jeep Wrangler, whatever I couldn't fit in my Jeep, I got rid of, and I moved to California and trained, moved with Eddie Millis at the Shark Tank, the gym that was pretty big back in the day, Rancho Cucamonga, California. So, and I basically I stayed with him a little bit, but I was kind of sleeping in the gym. I was, I traded personal training lessons to a girl who was a manager at a 24-hour fitness. So I would shower there and sleep at the gym, and I was digging change out of the vacuum cleaner to buy food and whatever. So, because with fighting, it was feast or famine. Because you take a fight and you win, lose, whatever, you make a couple grand, or but then whatever happens, you break your hand, you've got injuries, you can't get another fight, so you got 6 months to live off of $2,500, and then when you're in California, even then it was not super enjoyable. So trained there for a little bit, realized I need to get a real job and something more lucrative, and then I joined the military. So I was like, I always want to join the Army. Well, this is a good time. So 25 years old, and let's go for it.
Cool. So you get with a recruiter?
Right. I actually moved back home first. I moved because, like I said, I was sleeping in the gym on a cot. I was like, I got to get out of California. Me and Eddie never really saw eye to eye on a lot of stuff. But so went back to West Virginia. I worked during the week for my old trainer, Leon Ramsey, who the first gym I worked with his oil and gas company a little bit. And then on the weekends, I'd work at my buddy. I'd drive 2 hours to Columbus, Ohio, where my buddy owned a strip club, and I'd work as the head of security there. So I did that. As I was talking to the recruiter, I was on delayed entry for the military. So signed up for the Special Forces Baby program because I thought I was a lot tougher than I actually was. The 18 X-ray program, and joined that, or signed up for that, and left. I don't exactly remember. I remember it was hot because a recruiter came and picked me up at my folks' house in West Virginia for me to fly to Fort Benning, Georgia, where I did. That's where I did my basic and my AIT, which for anyone who's been infantry, the only difference between basic and AIT and infantry is they just tell you, hey, now you're in AIT, and you keep doing the same stuff that you were doing before. So, but did all that, went through basic AIT, and then I went to Fort Bragg for airborne school, and I did my 5 jumps out of an airplane. I hate heights, so that was not enjoyable, but something you got to do. And then from there, I went to the other side of Fort Bragg for the Special Forces. That's when I jumped into the Special Forces pipeline from there, or SOPC, which was Special Operations Preparatory and Conditioning, which just in itself sounds terrifying. So, but
tell us about that. What went on in there?
That was just, basically that's just a 2.5 week smoke fest is all it is. You've got a bunch of angry Green Berets who have been cycled back to the world. They want to be over in the desert, zapping bad guys, and they've been cycled back into this, into SWIC, Special Warfare Indoctrination, I think is what it is. But basically, they've been cycled back to be instructors of a bunch of young idiot Joe who think they can be a Green Beret. So they're not very happy. They're not happy to be there, and they take it all out on you. So it's just a constant smoke fest. Well, I learned quickly, there's a reason why most spec ops guys that you meet, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, are not huge monster guys. Now, eventually, once they get into group, once they get into the teams, so a lot of them get big, they get buff, whatever, but they're not very big dudes, I'd be standing in line for formation in the morning, and the next tallest guy is like 5'8", 155 pounds, and I'm like, wow, I'm a pretty
Nowhere to hide.
rare individual here. So, but there's a reason for that, because with the miles of rucking and the running, it's a lot of pounding. When you weigh 250 pounds, it's a lot different than weighing 150. So that, coupled with the fact that I've kind of bumped up my knee a little bit on my second to last airborne jump. So I was having a hard time getting through a lot of it. So I went to see the doctor, and they suggested that, because from SOP C, you go right into selection, and they suggested that I wait. So I told that sergeant that you spoke with, I believe, sergeant you mentioned earlier, Sergeant Chuck Felder, I think, he was the sergeant at SOP C, and he asked the sergeant major to make me a corporal. And so I was just basically in charge of formation in the morning and making sure they get to chow and all that stuff. So they made me a corporal. Sorry, dragging on here, while I was waiting to get ready, and things got more frustrating, and between medical visits and having to wait and this and that. And honestly, I kind of wussed out. I say that now, like I said in the thing I wrote, I'm not a big guy on regret.
Hey guys, today's episode is sponsored by Palm Beach Personal Protection Group, episode number 12 of On the Beat podcast. If you're looking for a well-grounded, fully trained personal protection company, security company, or we also do firearm safety courses, give us a call. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram at PBP Protection, or you can find us on our website at protectingpalmbeach.com. Now back to our show.
All right, cool. So you were talking about your knee injuries from airborne school, and what happened from there?
Out of the military, and I realized I looked at the time, realized I was dragging on. So I got out of the military, and I actually applied for Blackwater and a couple other contracting agencies. And one of the recruiters at Blackwater said, go somewhere violent and be a police officer, and go there for a couple years, and then apply back with us, and we'll hire you. So I was like, okay. So I looked around, and West Palm Beach, I looked at Miami, because I knew I wanted to go to Florida, somewhere warm, and I looked at Miami, and West Palm Beach actually in 2004 had one of the highest murder rates per capita, something like that. So I was like, all right, hey, what the heck? And had a decent salary. So I put my app in, and the rest, as they say, is history. So
Cool. So that's you put the app in. That's when we met, and
shining moment in my life.
yeah, I mean, I could see us both running towards each other in a field of daisies.
In slow motion?
In slow motion, right?
Romantic.
Very romantic, right? Hey, okay, so you come down to the city, you get on the job. I was your background investigator. Sooner or later, we met, because I was a sergeant on that platoon with you, Jumpin' Bill, and a couple other clowns that almost shorted my career out. So midnight shift is where we rode, right? So what was something that you remember about riding midnight shift with our platoon?
Yeah, I don't know. I remember a lot. I remember the store at 7th and Tamarind, that little blue store.
Tank and Dummy.
I remember. What was that? The little store. I think it was blue at 7th and Tamarind, the little store right there.
7th and Tamarind, yeah. Very busy area there.
I remember Dwight McDonald telling me a long time ago that they can beat the rap, but they can't beat the ride. That kind of became a mantra for me there. And just learn that law enforcement, there's a lot more to it than just show up, put the handcuffs on them, and take them to jail type thing. So it honestly met some of the, I mean, all BS aside, some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. Like, you know, like you mentioned, you know, Bill, rest in peace, you know, amazing dude that I don't keep in touch with many people from my past. You know, I don't talk to anyone from high school, don't talk to anyone from the military, whatever. But, you know, all you guys there at West Palm, you know, I still try to keep in touch with. And I guess kind of they say the whole brothers through combat type thing. It wasn't necessarily combat, but it definitely got pretty wacky there. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let me refresh your memory on something. Do you remember the incident? It was you, myself, Jumping Bill, 7th Street.
Absolutely, you don't even have to say anymore. I mean, that is a legendary moment in my law enforcement career, and yeah, I still tell that story as well. Like I got a little bit of a scar on my arm from where the guy bit me a little bit.
Yeah.
So just a little line on there. You can't really see much anymore, but
that was a crazy incident there. Crazy incident.
And one of the funniest parts, was it you bringing us dinner or was it Bill bringing?
Yeah, no, I brought you dinner. We got to tell the story from the beginning though, because we roll up on this call where this guy, he's acting crazy, right, on this stoop of this place by the White Houses off of 7th, right off of Tamarind Avenue. We roll up there. 3 of us roll up, right? I'm like a friggin' midget compared to him and Jumping Bill, right? So we're walking up, and this guy's naked. He's sitting on a step naked, right? And he's just sitting there, and he's rocking back and forth. And immediately I know what's going on, right? And I said to them, we got to take this guy down, like, right now. Get him down right now. And I had dispatch call the fire rescue to get them rolling. And as I said that, this guy, remember? This guy launches from a squat position, flies through the air at George. And before I know it, we're on top of this guy. George and I are within, I mean, he can stick his tongue in my ear. We're this close, right? Big Bill's got this guy by his ankles. And I got an arm pinned, and I hear George. Sarge, he's trying to bite me. He's trying to bite me, Sarge. And he goes, don't bite me, dude. Don't bite me. Right? And he goes, fuck, Sarge, you just bit me. And then I hear, like that. And then the guy just goes limp. And it was like the 1-inch punch. Right?
Yeah, but he was only out for like a second. Like, it just stalled him long enough.
That's all it took.
I was shocked that he came back too, because I brought that punch. Well, I guess statute of limitations is pretty much going on.
Yeah.
I brought that punch from South Dakota. Like, he bit my arm, and I saw some blood, and I lost my mind. Like, so,
but he knocks the guy out. The guy's nose was like splayed open on his face. We get him cuffed. We get him, supported, everything we needed to do. Get him in the wagon. They take him up to St. Mary's. We get up there, and of course, Big George has to eat. Got to keep feeding the machine, right? So we get them into the ER. They're all squared away. I said, look, guys. I said, I'll grab you guys dinner. What do you want? So him and Bill. So I wasn't there at the hospital. So tell your story. All right. Still, again, statute of limitations is done.
I'm sitting next. They moved him from one room to another, and I'm sitting next to the guy. He's out completely. Obviously, I mean, between the trauma of the drugs and some kind of medically induced, I don't know. Anyways, I'm sitting there.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Riddle Defense. Riddle Defense is a self-defense firearms training company based out of Boca Raton, Florida. We specialize in combat Krav Maga, firearms training, and in-home self-defense. Our website is riddledefense.com, and you can find us on all social media at Riddle Defense. Now let's get back to the show.
There's some kind of fluid pouring out of this guy's rear end, covering the gurney, covering the floor, whatever, and this ungodly smell. Like, I think this guy's entire insides has turned to liquid and is pouring out on the floor. So
Ugh.
they've all got us in like masks and, the little stuff that you rub under your nose, whatever. Well, then I'll let you take it from here, Sarge.
Yeah, so I'm out getting them food, right? I come back in with 2 big bags of food. I park in front of the off the ER entrance. I start to walk in, and everybody's like in these hazmat suits. And I'm walking in, and I'm like freeze in that step, and I'm like, am I okay here? And the nurses are looking at me, and they're, yeah, you're good. You're good. Did you bring that guy in down in room 12? Yeah. All right. That's the problem then. So I go down there. George is like green. He's like, get me out of here. I said, you want to eat now?
Where's your burger? What year was this?
What year was it? Oh.
You said, well, you got hired in 90.
I got hired in
98?
96, 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not 90, not 96, 2006 or 2000, something like that. So it had to be somewhere between 2005 and 2010, somewhere in there. So, but
I tell that story all the time too. I tell it too.
definitely memory there. And but yeah, from there, just a lot of stories, a lot of stories with me and Bill. Definitely stuff.
Oh yeah.
A lot of stuff that you never found out about Sarge. Which,
Yeah, I know. I spent more time hunting you two than I did bad guys.
but and then we just decided we wanted to get out of West Palm. Marilyn wanted out of, she was working in Boca, and skipping that whole part where I met Marilyn and all that, and I was retired for a while. I wasn't going to do law enforcement. Got kind of, and then so I was a stay-at-home dad, and was going a little stir crazy with that, and decided to try it again. And here I am in St. Cloud, amongst a million other weird little stories that, because I actually retired twice from law enforcement. Retired once from West Palm, and then once again up here when we opened the CrossFit gym. Opened the CrossFit gym and tried to open a little fight gym along with it, and reinforce the fact that fighters are just crazy and not something. I realized what a pain in the ass I was when I was a fighter. So, but then they asked me to come back when the governor made that mandate that every school would have a school resource officer. They asked me to come back from retirement, and I think God kind of was looking down on me then and said, you know what? Here you go. This is a good job for you. And it was, because I can serve in a different capacity now. Not doing jump outs and throwing people around and splitting heads, but definitely still doing my service part. So
Sure, and you can mold these kids. You can help mold these kids as they're growing up too. So you don't have to meet them later on down the road.
Yeah, you look happy. You look like you're enjoying everything that you're doing. Same personality that you had when you were in West Palm, only just a little further north.
just goofy, still goofy, still like not quite as angry, but definitely not working nights helps. So that's we'll never miss that. The whole midnight shift. So things are I'm really blessed.
So now you're doing that with the school resource officer. You're on SWAT. Okay, so really you got the best of both worlds, right? And you're still touching into the training section with law enforcement and outside of law enforcement. Tell us about your CrossFit Box.
We're up here in St. Cloud, CrossFit Panoply. It's called. Panoply is we purchased it from from a friend of ours that he named it, but it's the shining array of a warrior. Kind of everything that a warrior needs to make him a warrior. That's what Panoply is. So it's kind of a fitting name. My wife is really more. She's more in charge of it. She's more. She kind of runs the day-to-day operations. But it's a good community. It's good. They're good people, and it just. I've always, a lot of people, they point and make fun of CrossFit. I do too occasionally, but it's a super effective way of maintaining readiness, kind of all around. I've been the meathead heavy weightlifter. I've been tried to be the runner. That's never me exactly, but I used to try to run a lot. But it's a good combination of everything. So, but I still, of course, I got my heavy bags in there. I have my Thai pads. I have my belly shields, all that stuff. So I still do a lot of the mixed martial arts, the Muay Thai, the whatever. I'm still training jiu-jitsu. There's an American top team actually right across the plaza from us, and I train over there. I just got my purple belt actually about 3-4 months ago. So
Congratulations, man. Great.
Still trying to press that, jiu-jitsu for law enforcement is, that you need to do something. You've got to be in shape. You've got to be able to, even if you don't want to learn to fight, if you don't want to get punched in the face, whatever, you need to be in shape for this group.
Absolutely, absolutely. But don't you think, with that said, and I think you and I are on the same page on this, for law enforcement. Yes, you have to be in shape because sooner or later you're going to go to a battle. And you have to be number one, you have to have a skill to be able to survive that battle, but also you have to be in some type of condition to survive it also. So it's kind of twofold, right? So
100%.
In your training, how many law enforcement officers do you have that train with you at the box and in the combatives world?
We're kind of well, it's funny. I say we're a law enforcement heavy gym, but a lot of the law enforcement guys have walked away. They don't train with us anymore. So there's probably a good solid group of 5 to 10 maybe, which out of all the law enforcement agencies around here, we have St. Cloud, we have Kissimmee, we have Osceola County, we have, that's not super a real good number, but they and I'm the first to say, I mean, when you're working the road for law enforcement, it's not easy. It's hard to do to maintain some sort of physical fitness along with family life, work life, everything else. But I'm really seeing it, and I'm seeing the shift in law enforcement, which I'm sure you guys are as well. We seem to be, instead of going towards the physicality and the physical culture and whatever, we seem to be getting away from it. And that scares me. That makes me nervous that, they don't want, if I applied for law enforcement now, I don't know if people would quite look at my background quite so favorably like different people did back then.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, I still remember Delsa Bush was our chief then. And when I won the DT award at the academy in West Palm, I remember her expressing a little bit of nervousness about that I won the DT award. And she was like, well, we'll see what he does with that when he comes to us. So even then it was questionable. And that's what I always say, that people don't understand that the higher your training is, the higher your fitness level is, the higher, all of that is, the less likely you are to pull your gun or to kill somebody or whatever, because you can handle that situation. I can handle it with just my bare hands, and I can put this guy in cuffs, make them do what I want them to do. We don't need less training. We need more training. Guys need to be in better shape. Guys need to be better fighters, better defensive tactics people. But I feel like we're moving away from that, especially with the culture as it is now. So.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Anything?
No, I like you just said. I totally agree with you. Definitely need more training, especially working the road. The more tools you have accessible to you, the better chance of your, winning that violent encounter. So.
Yeah, and I down here in my school, I try to. We don't have any policemen in here. We have no cops come in here, which I can't figure it out. But it's coming from that world, you know. I bring it in. I bring that into the civilian world, you know, where when I'm teaching the civilians that come in here, they have to be in shape. You have to be in shape to survive the encounter, right? You know, not only that, but you have to have that skill. Better in shape you are, the clearer thinking you'll have, and you can access different things to help you win that battle, you know. And I just wish the law enforcement side, and it's probably not everybody, okay? I'm not going to say nationwide, okay? I'm sure there's some agencies that really do push it, but there are some that don't, and they're the ones that they're going to lose. They're going to lose, in my opinion, because I believe when you put that badge on, you got to be ready. You step outside the door, you got to be ready. You got to be ready to fight, and because it can happen at any time.
And I think you said it to me, and that's something I always say. And whether you said it to me or not, I give you credit for it. I always say that my sergeant told me that there's a total difference as a law enforcement officer between the fight, because normally guys are fighting to get away from us. The fight when a guy knocks you down and he runs, and when a guy knocks you down and he jumps on top of you.
Yep.
Those are two completely different fights. And the first time that one happens, when he knocks you down and jumps on top of you to finish the job,
Yep.
you're going to wish that you trained your butt off.
Absolutely, and I've been there. I've been in that position. You know, I think that's probably why I said that to you. So it's I've been in that position, and if I didn't know what I knew at the time, who knows what would have happened, right? So it's just something that I think every officer needs to sit down and really contemplate within themselves. You know, and they got guys like you that are out there that are willing to teach them. You know, and to push them, not only in the skill level but in the physical capacity, and they need to seek you out for that. You know, to make them a better.
It's hard, Sarge. It's hard. Nobody wants to sweat. You know.
Yeah.
It's easier to sit at home and watch TV.
Yeah, easy. I'd rather sit home and drink a beer and have some pizza. You know.
Exactly.
Now I get it.
Sounds like fun.
I get it. All right, brother. Hey, man, I on behalf of Lou and I, we both really appreciate you coming on. I know we've been digging at this a little while with you, and I hope this was as painless as possible for you.
Awesome. It was, like I always say, I don't like to talk, but apparently I do, because that was like an hour of me just running my mouth. So, but it was awesome. Thank you, guys.
True, and it flies. And the time flies, man, when we're doing it, and I'm glad to get to see you.
Absolutely.
Even though it's on Zoom, but glad to see you. Glad everything's going on, and everything's working out well for you.
Without a doubt. So thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.
Best of luck in everything you do in the future.
Thank you, brother. You too.
Next time I'm up at Disney World, I'll stop by and see you. I'll give you a shout. All right?
Definitely.
All right. I'll bring my ears.
Yeah, guys.
All right, brother.
Be safe,
Have a good
George.
one.
Love.